State of Business, sponsored by
IWS Aviation.
Hello there, you're watching our television. Welcome to State of Business with me, Pamudha Katukampala. And we have in our top stories: the stock market closes for the whole week, and President appoints new cabinet of ministers. And now news in detail. The round-the-clock protest staged by people at the Gold-Face Green in Colombo calling for the resignation of the president and the government continues today for the 10th consecutive day, with more people joining the protest. The protest started on the 9th of April with the participation of people from all walks of life, mostly constituted by the youth of the nation. The protesters have named the area of Goldface in front of the President Office as Gota Gogoma and have set up tents and food stalls for protesters, where volunteers have been providing food and drink to the protesters. This self-proclaimed new village has a medical centre, library, international media centre and many other facilities. While a group of youth shout slogans right in front of the presidential secretariat, others engage in activities such as musical shows, dramas, pocket meetings and many other activities. Yesterday, these youth got creative and used multimedia projectors to illuminate the presidential secretariat building with digital images of various events. Meanwhile, the three-day march organized by the National People's Power Party under the theme "Let's Chase Away the Gang of Thieves Who Robbed Us of Our Money" started yesterday at 9 a.m. from Beruala. Thousands of people have gathered for the NPP march, with crowds gathering on either side of the protest march, supporting it by lighting firecrackers, serving cool drinks and offering snacks. The protest march was ended in Vadua yesterday, and today they reached Moratua. The final stretch of the march from Moratua to the Colombo Municipal Council grounds, where a massive protest rally has been organized, will take place tomorrow. In the meantime, the regime in power engaged in a cabinet reshuffle this morning, which left out all the Rajapaksas and former heavyweights such as Gamini Lokoge, Johnston Fernando and Rohita Abegunawardana. Meanwhile, a new cabinet of ministers has been appointed by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The swearing-in ceremony took place this morning at the president's residence in Colombo. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa was not in attendance during the swearing-in of the new cabinet, which does not include a single member of the Rajapaksa family. Accordingly, MP Dinesh Gunawardena was appointed as the Public Administration, Internal Affairs, Provincial Councils and Local Government Minister. Parliamentarian Douglas Devananda was given the portfolio of Fisheries. Dr. Ramesh Patrana, who was the Minister of Plantations, was also handed the Ministry of Education. Former Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranatunga was given the same portfolio together with the Ministry of Public Security. Kandy District MP Dilum Amanugama is to handle two ministries, Transport and Industries. Parliamentarian Kanaka Herath has been entrusted with the Ministry of Highways. Former State Minister Vidura Vikramanayaka will look into labour-related issues as the Minister of Labour. MP Janaka Wakkumbura is the Minister of Agriculture and Irrigation. MP Shehan Semasingh has also been handed two portfolios, this being Trade and Samurdhi Development. Parliamentarian Mohan Priyadarshini Silva is the Minister of Water Supply in the new cabinet, and MP Vimalavira Disanayaka will continue in Wildlife and Forest Resources Conservation. MP Kanchana Vijayasekara was entrusted with the Ministries of Power and Energy. MP Tenuka Vidanagamage is the new Sports Minister. He will also oversee the Ministry of Youth Affairs. Dr. Nalaka Godaheva is the new Media Minister, and Professor Channa Jayasumana will handle the Ministry of Health. MP Nasir Ahmed has been appointed as the Minister of Environment, and MP Pramita Bandara Thenakon was entrusted with Ports and Shipping. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa reiterated that the country's economy is in terrible condition and requested that the newly appointed cabinet of ministers serve efficiently to free the country from this disaster. He also requested the younger generation to join them to bring about a change in the system.
මම ජේෂ්ඨත්වය සලකන්නේ නැතුව නව ඇමතිවරුන් පත් කළා තිබෙනවා. ඇමති තනතුරු වරප්‍රසාදයක් නෙවෙයි. ඒක විශාල වගකීමක්. මම තමුන්නාන්සේලාගෙන් ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා කිසිදු අමතර වරප්‍රසාදයක් ඇමතිවරයෙක් කියලා පාවිච්චි කරන්නට එපා. මම තමුන්නාන්සේලාගෙන් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ අවංකව කාර්යක්ෂමව පිරිසුදු පාලනයකට කැප වෙන්න කියලා. ඒ වගේම ඔබ යටතේ ඇති ආයතන දූෂණයෙන් තොර ජනතා සේවයට කැප වුණු ආයතන බවට පත් කරන්නට කියලා. අද රාජ්‍ය ආයතන බොහොමයක් පවතින්නේ බරපතල මූල්‍ය අර්බුද තත්ත්වයක. ඒවා නිවැරදි කර ගැනීම ඉතාමත්ම අවශ්‍යයි. අද පවතින මේ අර්බුදය ඒ ජනතාව ඉල්ලපු මේ සිස්ටම් චේන්ජ් එක කරන්න හොඳ අවස්ථාවක්. තමුන්නාන්සලට ඒ අවස්ථාව ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. ඒකම මම ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා මේ තරුණයන්ගෙන් ඒට උපකාර කරන්නට කියලා.
Stay tuned for more news after the short break.
Sponsored by
Welcome back to the program. A delegation led by Finance Minister Ali Sabri is in the US to engage with the International Monetary Fund and secure a $4 billion bailout package to help economic recovery. The discussions from the 19th of April to the 24th of April are taking place after the Finance Ministry announced that it is suspending repayment of foreign debt. The suspension of repayment, which includes bonds and government-to-government borrowing, is pending the completion of a loan restructuring program with the IMF. Sri Lanka had to meet $7 billion in debt payment this year. This was the first ever debt default by Sri Lanka in its history since 1948, and the country's 22 million people are facing crippling power cuts and an extreme scarcity of food, fuel and other essential items such as medicines. The Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka on Saturday announced that the Colombo Stock Exchange will remain temporarily closed for a week from the 18th of April to provide investors with time to understanding of the economic conditions. With the acute shortage of forex, Indian financial assistance in the form of US dollar credit line to help face the economic crisis has been a lifeline to the nation. However, President Rajapaksa defends his government's actions, saying the foreign exchange crisis was not his fault and that the economic downturn was largely pandemic-driven due to waning tourism revenue and inward remittances. The Colombo Stock Exchange, in view of the decision taken by the Securities and Exchange Commission, has temporarily closed its stock market for a period of 5 business days from 18th April 2022. Accordingly, the market will be closed from the 18th to the 22nd of April 2022. However, the Colombo Stock Exchange offices will remain open during this period. Responding to this development via Twitter, Samakijana Balawege MP Harsh De Silva has stated that the move is unwise. MP De Silva states that Sri Lanka's default and associated issues have now been processed and market prices need to reflect these conditions. He added that closing the market in bad times and then reopening during good times will send the wrong signal to investors. Meanwhile, the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce was dismayed by the temporary closure of the stock market. It points out that the closure creates many challenges for local and foreign investors. It communicates that the closure prevents potential sellers from exiting the market at the time and price of their choice, while also preventing potential buyers from acquiring shares at the time and price of their choice. Finally, the closure leaves all investors unable to carry out valuations and mark-to-market their respective investment portfolios. The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce notes that as circuit breakers top sharp movements, it sees no need to close the market and holds that it will be seen as akin to the failed attempt made to hold the exchange rate constant against market forces. Meanwhile, an 11,000 metric ton consignment of rice which arrived under the concessional Indian credit facility of $1 billion was ceremonially handed over to the government of Sri Lanka by officials of the High Commission of India. Prior to this consignment, 5,000 metric tons of rice was received in the past under the credit facility. With this, a total of 16,000 metric tons of rice has been delivered out of the 40,000 metric tons to be imported by the State Trading Corporation from India. The $1 billion credit facility agreement was signed between the Government of Sri Lanka and the State Bank of India on the 17th of March this year. The delivery of rice was effected within less than 1 month of signing the agreement. The supply is a part of the multi-pronged support extended from India to Sri Lanka in the last few months, which includes timely supply of fuel and other forms of economic and forex support. The expeditious supply before the Sinhala and Tamil New Year is in line with the understandings reached regarding India's support for Sri Lanka's energy and food security. The assistance comes in the wake of a successful visit by the External Affairs Minister of India to Sri Lanka last month, during which India's continued support to the people of Sri Lanka was reiterated.
The consignment of 11,000 metric tons of rice has just been handed over to the Sri Lankan side. This has come under the Indian credit line. So under the Indian credit line of $1 billion, already 16,000 metric tons of rice has already been supplied to Sri Lanka. And I'm happy to note that the materialization of this credit line has happened within a span of a month from the finalization of this credit line. And it's particularly gladdening to say that, this consignment has reached here just before the people of Sri Lanka celebrate their new year, towards the later half of this week. And I guess these consignments, these supplies, it's a true reflection of the comprehensive nature of bilateral ties between India and Sri Lanka, as well as the collective desire of the people of India and Sri Lanka to stand together at times of adversities and overcome them together. And moving forward, I think we'll continue to explore all possible ways of extending our support to Sri Lanka. And specifically with respect to the $1 billion credit line, we could expect more consignments in a scheduled fashion.
Well, that's all our news for today. See you tomorrow with State of Business at the usual time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
News, views, highlights, updates and opinions. This is Wake Up With Us.
State of Business was sponsored by
IWS Aviation.